Thanks for joining us, everyone. My name's Jasper with Score Main, and I am joined by Tracy Auclair of TOC Media or Talk Media, here to present on Constant Contact, email editor and mastering that process. If you're not familiar with us here at Score, we're a nonprofit partner of the Small Business Administration, and we help clients from every stage of the business cycle, from pre-start to exit. And I do want to thank today's sponsor, who is the Maine Technology Institute, one of valued partner, in both the Maine economy and in business mentoring. If you have any questions, we are going to be holding them to the end today, since this is a pretty dense topic. If you have any, please queue them up in the chat, and we'll address them once we get to the Q&A. And once we're there, we can have you come off and mute if you have a question as well. Otherwise, Tracy, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Jasper. So let me just see if I can bring up my screen. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure everybody knows I'm a real person and not AI. So today we're going to talk about constant contact. I just want to preface, I'm not great at doing PowerPoint presentations, but I'm great at talking and I know what I'm talking about. So there's that. So my name is Tracy Auclair. I own an agency called Talk Media. I work with small businesses to help them with digital marketing. My model is, I'm sure all of your models have changed in your software decks and whatnot. Due to AI. AI is growing really fast. So I've gotten back into training. I used to do presentations, webinars, and in-person presentations about like 10 years ago or so. And now it's just, such a need for it. So there's my contact information. Sorry if my slides aren't the greatest, because last night I was just like, okay, let's screenshot and put some things in. But I have a lot to talk about. Mostly we're going to talk about, let me just get into my house. And if I turn my head this way, it's just because my other screen is over there. So today we're going to talk about how to create an email in Constant Contact, the things that you should be aware of. We're going to talk about subject lines as well, and basically everything that you're going to need to know in order to create your own email within Constant Contact. If you don't have a Constant Contact account, I will obviously set one up. I'm assuming most people in here Constant Contact account has been using it and just would like to learn how to optimize things a little bit better, as well as create a nice email. I'm going to just go through the slide decks. Feel free to write your questions in the comments or in the chat. And I think Jasper can, look through them and see if there's anything pressing, and then ask that when it makes sense. If I talk too fast, also write that in the chat, and Jasper will let me know that you don't understand something. But we're just going to get right into it. So the first thing, like I said, is that you need a Constant Contact account. There's plenty of other email programs out there, like MailChimp. We use MailChimp a lot as well. So the dashboard recently has changed, and this is what mine looks like. I'm assuming everybody else's looks the same. However, a lot of times when the software companies are pushing out new dashboards, new integrations, and so on and so forth, they do it to like a beta group. So just know that if your Constant Contact doesn't look like this, it will soon. And I'm just using my Constant Contact as for this presentation. So and I believe you guys can see my pointers. There's a bunch of information on the left-hand menu. We're talking about emails today, not getting into anything else. This is an email that I'd sent in September. So I'm basically using that as like my demo email. So you would just come into emails and you would create new emails. So this is where we're going to walk through, say you never created an email before. However, if you do have a email that you really like, a lot of times what we do is we're just going to copy as we optimize the email copy, and then keep optimizing that email template. Let's see. Okay, so I have a bunch of different slide decks on how to customize, and I think this is the most important part of this webinar. We're going to talk about pre-designs, color scheme, branding, default settings, and then how not to get like overwrite your copy or your formats within the blocks. And I just added a lot of text to this presentation because I know you're all getting a copy of it. In the last presentation, I just did mostly pictures. So I figured this would be a better PowerPoint presentation for you guys to look back to. So hopefully I added all the information you're going to need. So once you hit create an email, you're going to, let me just, hold on. My Zoom is kind of in the way of where I want it to be. So let me, bear with me for just a second. Okay, gotta find out. Why is this not? I'm gonna stop my video just so that I don't get distracted by looking at my Zoom. Okay, so back to choosing the template. Here we go. All right, so when you come in, so there is a brand kit. If you have not used it, I would highly recommend editing your brand kit. Where mine says edit right now because I've already put in some colors in there. But at the same point, like if you get it, like I said, if you have a nice template that you're using already, you can just copy that and keep going. However, when you do have a brand kit already, I would say put into the Constant Contact software, you'll be able to go to these pre-formatted templates here where it says branded. And then of course there's a bunch of different templates in there, which you're also just going to have to put your colors, your fonts, and so on and so forth. But these are also very good to look at because it's like, okay, what am I trying to accomplish? So for instance, if
Good
I,
morning. Can
oh,
we help
good
you find
morning.
anything?
Oh, is somebody talking to me?
My caught my comment.
Okay. So basically, if you're a retail person or a retail business, you're probably going to want to be sending emails out every Wednesday. If you're, say, a weekend business, would like, for instance, let's take a restaurant for example. I want to send my specials out on Tuesday or my lunch specials, and then I want to tell you what my entertainment's going to be on the weekend. So I would put that into like a weekly newsletter because I think that's really acceptable for your local audience. If it's something that you are having weekly events, you're doing weekly specials, things of that nature. Also, I know like back in the day, I used to work in restaurants and they would send a fax for their weekly specials for all the employees, like the hospitals and you know, the manufacturers and so on and so forth. So those are going to be a little bit different because maybe perhaps you're going to do here's my specials and here's a coupon at the end. So you just got to think layout, right? What am I trying to convey? Is this going to be a monthly newsletter where I am a nonprofit and we have a bunch of different events, plus we have new programs and we want to thank our sponsors, plus we have an article that's going to look kind of a little bit different. So it's going to look more like even though this says events, this could also be for like a lot of information within a newsletter, which I don't mind having multiple pieces of content in a newsletter. It just really depends on who you are and what you do for business. But I do recommend that you guys send at least one monthly email um, on one monthly email period. I think that's good for every business. And one of the reasons why I like to do that is because people change emails all the time. So Constant Contact really keeps your email list clean. So once you send an email, it's going to show you everybody that's bounced. And so some of those bounced emails are recommended for removal. I'm not sure if you've ever been into that section of Constant Contact, but you should be always cleaning your list and you should always be adding to your list, whether you're at a trade show and you're collecting emails or you're a solopreneur and you're collecting business cards, and just ask people, do you mind me putting you on my email list? And obviously there's some spam laws and whatnot. So you definitely want to make sure that you have permission from the email recipient that you can send them emails. However, it is implied that you are allowed to email them if they've done business with you in the past. So I work with a lot of, again, small business owners who are just starting out, and it's perfectly acceptable to take your QuickBooks email addresses or your personal email addresses that are in your contacts. I would say in your contacts, you can sort through what's business and what's, your family and whatnot. But you can upload that. And then I would send an email out saying, hey, this is me. This is what I'm doing. You're receiving this email because of your relationship with XYZ. And I'm planning on sending a monthly email about, ABC. If you don't want to be on here, please unsubscribe. So people are going to unsubscribe. Your list, you want people to unsubscribe that are not interested in what you're doing because you want your list to be lean, your followers, your supporters, the people that are interested. And of course, it depends on like your content. What are you putting out there? Is it the same thing all the time? Are you being valuable to your audience? So another thing, just a little tidbit, is that people typically try to do everything themselves until they can't. So you just want to be that person that is like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to give you some free information. And oh, by the way, in case you want to buy, here's, a little extra hump, or here's a free estimate, free consultation. Here's, if you're retail, if you have product or service, here's a discount of some sort. You just don't want to always be salesy unless you are straight retail. So if you're straight retail, here's, President's Day sale, here's Wednesday's Day sale, whatever it is, just to get people through the door and buying. And that does work. So point being on this, choose a template and then you're going to customize it. So this is where people kind of get a little confused. So when you're in, whoa, sorry, my I think I'm clicking in the wrong places here. All right. So once you're in the email, so say I picked a template and I am coming in to customize it. So now I'm in the editor. I'm in the constant contact editor. And here is where you guys want to start out. Always start out in the design if you're trying to start from scratch or just create something. So basically, these are your global settings for design. And so what that means is when I get into the build section, sorry, I don't know why this is this. Okay. It's because I'm moving my mouse. I'm going to stop doing that. So when you get into the build section, there's blocks in there, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. But those blocks, when you start editing in there, like I'm changing the font, I'm changing the color, I'm changing the link color, that is going to override your design, your global design colors and fonts and backgrounds. So I always suggest if you're going to change a color that you want for the rest of your life or until for the time being, is to start in the design section. Go in through what do you want your outer board, and I change this on a regular basis, so I'm assuming you guys might want to do that too. Just based on just freshening things up and whatnot, and seeing what works for you and your brand. But so you have your outer background, your inner background, your featured background, articles, so on and so forth. Your dividers, I highly recommend having dividers like this little red line up at the top. It makes it a lot easier for people to kind of scan your email and find out what they want. So you don't want it to be, well, first of all, you don't ever want your email to be just one big image. I find a lot of people do that, and that's not good for analytics. You want to make sure you have links in here so that you can look at and see what people are interested in. And I'll get into that a little bit further. So this is again in the design tab. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like so that you guys can pay attention to what needs to be paid attention in order to make your email branded. So we have, fonts are big. I would recommend having two types of fonts. However, you can have the same font. If you're not, I don't know who's using Chat GBT or not, but basically it's or Copilot or any of the AI programs. But if you don't know, you should have a brand style guideline of some sort. So basically, ideally, when you're creating your branding, you want your logo, right? So that's my logo there. But then you also want to have like a sub mark of some sort that can be square. So you got to think of it like Nike. Okay, Nike has its name and its logo with a little swoop in it. I think that's what it's called. And then they just can use that swoop to brand themselves in other ways. So, for instance, Talk Media, I can't put that all into a Facebook profile picture for my page. or an Instagram or LinkedIn or things of that nature, and where everybody should be on social media at this point. Like you really need to have like a submark in order to market yourself. So you want to have your full logo, your submark in your branding, I would say style sheet, or your package, or however you want to look at it. And then you want to have fonts. So these fonts should be ideally able to use in all of your printed material, all of your online material, your sales material. I would say whatever you're using for a website. So, like, they should be very common. And it's also what's going to work in Constant Contact as well. So back to the AI, you can put your font, your logo, your current logo into like Chat GPT and just say what fonts would match my logo that I can use in Constant Contact. And it would give you your recommended fonts. And it's the same for WordPress if anybody's using WordPress or Google fonts, so on and so forth. So I would recommend verifying or creating your font structure. And then it's just a matter of liking. So you're gonna play around with these fonts a little bit. Okay, do I want my headings to be black? Do I want them to be blue? Do I want, just be very consistent on what your headings look like, how you're going to structure your email, and then again, your links. So the featured link is blue on mine, so I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I never use the featured block. So that has not been changed. I don't really pay too much attention to that. Um, but as you get going, say if I did use my feature block and I'm building it from the blocks on the build tab, I'm gonna go back to the design tab and fix that the way I want it once I figure out the way I want it. Um, I'm gonna click here just to go back. All right. So then the last thing in the design are the buttons. So we want to use buttons. You can use text links as you can see in here. See, with the email, like so this email is obviously about e-commerce, right? It's just like here are all the options of e-commerce. E-commerce is big. If you want an e-commerce website, basically contact Talk Media. And so this is the submark that I was talking about at the end. That's what I've been using currently. And I've been through a couple of different revisions over the last 15 years on this sub bark, but I like this one currently. um, and that's what's good about digital marketing is like you can change if especially for small businesses that may have started out with one logo, but then they realize it doesn't go over well with their shirt company or their sign company or so on and so forth. You can just kind of alter it a little bit and people still know who you are. But once you find something that it's good to stick with it. So as you can see, I have my text links up in the email, and then I have a button down at the bottom. So you want to play around with what works for your audience, but make it look nice. Like so say if you have a long article, you could have text links within the article, but then you want to lead out to your sponsors, for instance, or your partners. And so the article would have text links in it that would link out to those types of businesses. But then at the end, you would have a button that says read full article, learn more, whatever it is. And another big thing is even once they leave here and they want to go into your website or they're going to something else. So if they are going to your website, try not to make people click twice when they can click once. The whole reason that we do social media and email marketing is ideally to get somebody to do something, which is usually go back to the website and learn more information. And then you're looking at your website data and saying, okay, where did my traffic come from? Jasper, do you have any questions have you received any questions on this so far?
Not yet, but again, if anyone has any, feel free to please put them in the chat and we can address them.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. All right. So once you do all of that, that's when it comes into the build side. So as I'm assuming you guys have all been into Constant Contact, but basically the you can take any of these blocks and drag and drop them. And then once you drag and drop them, then you can click on them and you can see all these buttons that are here. So you can move it with the little arrow to the left or the right, and then you can copy it, you can delete it, and so on and so forth. So you can play around with the positioning just when you drag. So once it's already in there, and you hold it and then you start dragging it, there should be a line as to where that's going to go. That can get a little confusing as well. So you just have to kind of be careful and make sure that the line that is where it's going to go is where you actually want it. And then, of course, you can delete and start all over. So there's not really any harm to that. The biggest thing with the reason why we're having this is that we want to make sure that you are creating something that you can reuse on a regular basis. It matches your brand. You're happy with it. It's very easy to read. You're getting your point across, so on and so forth. So back to why you should create in the design and then come over to the build and do the blocks. Once you have the design set, these blocks will automatically use the fonts and the colors that you have decided on within the design. But however, if you go into these blocks after that and you start messing around with the fonts and whatnot, you're not going to be able to go into the design and then change something. It's not going to change in every single block, because when you write directly within the block, it overrides the design. So that's why you want to do the design first. So that way, if you come back to the build and you're like, oh, I want all my links to be blue, then you go into the design and you click one button and all your links are magically blue, magically with code. Dividers again. I like the dividers to be thin, like a one pixel. It just keeps it clear and simple. So obviously, this is about different online e-commerce shopping carts. So here's a picture. My logo's at the top. You can put your logo just at the top. Sometimes some brands I don't put the logo at the top because I want it because it's too cluttery. But primarily, you want your logo at the top. You don't want it to take up too much space. And then you can, outside of Constant Contact, I don't think they're integrated right now with any design program or anything. But you can create like a thin header graphic that's always on your email. So I always call that like an email header, which would take place of where the talk media is now, but it would include my logo, maybe with like a different design. It all depends on your brand and what you have for assets and so on and so forth. And I wouldn't get too caught up. Like, don't ever not send emails just because of the design. Like, like that one thing isn't right, I'm not going to send it. Well, maybe you just replace it with something else and still send it, because the biggest thing is the frequency and making sure that you're reaching your clients, making sure your email list is getting clean. For instance, we used to work with this promotional items company. Their open rate, which we'll get into later, was consistently low. And but at the same point, everybody was opening the emails. Everybody stayed, well, they weren't all opening them, obviously, because the open rate was low, but they were staying on the list. They were not unsubscribing because these were the marketers or the business owners that knew they needed to order something for a trade show that's coming up. They want to do business with this person. They want to see the products, because it was basically a reminder that, like, hey, I need to order like now. So but they would get a reply from that email that they sent out with an order, which covers the entire software bill plus the time. So very valuable for large projects, small projects, high ticketed items. Well, research says that the return on investment is the highest with email marketing for all digital marketing. It's like $35, might be up to 40 something now, per every dollar invested. So the other great thing about email marketing is that you can always export your email list and use it for other things, such as adding it to Facebook for Facebook advertising, so it does a lookalike, so on and so forth. All right. And then they have like these layouts down at the bottom. So you have like your text, your images, your buttons, dividers, etc., spaces, so on and so forth. Um, those are primarily what I use. I don't really use the rest of them. And then, but if you're so anyways, down to the layouts and its header. So I use the layouts if I want to add like 3 images in a row with a little bit of copy, or 3 options that I kind of want to put down there so the email's not as long. So basically 3 columns. So for instance, this could have been multiple columns, but we just did it on a straight scroll. All right, we'll go to the next one. I guess I don't have as many as I thought I did. So anyhow, copy. I think it's important. The biggest thing about this is that you can either have like an email that is like, 4 paragraphs and it's only about one thing, or you can segment it up. The biggest thing is like 3 sentences looks big on an email, and you got to think that everybody's looking at it from their phones as well. So, and I believe the data will tell you that whether they're looking at it on web or phone. So that's something you want to know about your audience too. Like when we design websites, we design on the we for testing purposes. We look at the iPhone and we look at Chrome. And my website partner has always said, "Listen, if it works for those, it's going to work for everybody else, and everybody else just needs to update their browsers." Anyhow, is there a way to get a show of hands on this? Oh,
Yeah, we
no.
could either have
Jasper.
people chime off in the chat or utilize the react button at the bottom of your screen to react to this.
Okay, well, yeah, so I'd like to know, Jasper, and you can tell me because I'm not looking at the Zoom right now, but I'd like to know who's using some form of AI to write copy. That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah. If again, if you either use the raise hand or a reaction in the react window, looks like Buffy is, or throw it in the chat. Those
Awesome.
who are using AI to write some, or at least assist them writing copy.
Or anything, to be honest. Yeah. Um, Let me know what we're getting there, Jasper.
We just got the
We're getting a
one
lot.
so far, but I can chime off as well that I do often use it, at least to brainstorm and get a basis for some stuff I send out.
Right. Yeah. No, you definitely, anytime you use AI, you obviously want to make sure A, that you're giving it enough information to spit out what you want. And then B, making sure that it is who you are, it's on brand, so on and so forth. So, like you said, using it as a basis to like ideas and things of that nature, sometimes you're never going to get it to be exactly who you want it to be. So get the ideas and then rewrite it and then fine tune it and proofread it and so on and so forth. But you definitely want to keep all of your copy on your email basically short. And then you want to link it to some place. You cannot so if you don't add links to your email, then you won't be able to look at the analytics and find out what people are interested in, because basically um the email software is only going to give you data on the open rate, the growth of your email list or the decline, and then who's clicking what. So the great thing about the analytics is that if you have their first and last name in there and you're looking at who clicked on Shopify versus, so for this, and I think I have the data on it later on, but for this email specifically, all of those shopping carts was clicked on by 39 people, or they got 39 clicks. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but I'm assuming it was the same people, right? So they're just interested. Those are the people that are interested. So in hindsight, if I wanted to, which I have not, I could go and create another email within Constant Contact that is auto triggered to follow up with these people and say, "Oh, you like big commerce? Here's some more information on big commerce." Um, but I'm not that aggressive in email. Maybe I should be. um, but I mean, it's perfectly acceptable. It's just, it depends on how you feel about it. Oh, call to action. So we definitely want to make sure that we are telling people what to do and how to get a hold of you or how to buy or so on and so forth. Like for instance, in the Let Talk Media Get Your Online Store Live, it says, "Hey, book an appointment with Tracy O'Clair." And then it says schedule now. And so what that link specifically leads to the link where people can book a meeting with me. And then I have that set up to be auto generated with my, well, it actually is a Google link, so it just automatically goes on my calendar, and then that way we don't have to go back and forth to schedule things. Um, if you have not played around with Chat or Copilot or Gronk, I urge you to, whether even if you're against it. I've had this conversation all my career in regards to social media. A lot of people don't like social media, and I'm like, if you're in business, you got to be in it to win it. So at this point, if you're in business, you got to be in it to win it. You need to use some of these programs, or your competitors are just gonna whoop you. Um, all right, matching your tone, brand's personality. We talked a little bit about that. Um, Here it says, focus on the main message, which, like I said, some people are just putting out, like, used to be a paper newsletter and now it's an email newsletter, and that's perfectly okay too. So, for instance, I at one point in my life was the interim executive of Waterville Main Street, and we just had a lot to tell. There was a lot of things going on. So it was like a monthly newsletter with everything that's going on. But if you're going to do that, just make sure that there's segments. So similar to what's in this email, here's a small little tidbit about, the downtown businesses. Here's a small little tidbit about the grant that's coming to beautify the city, so on and so forth. And then have more information on your website. So within the email, you don't want to have, and I'm sure you've all received these emails that have like a bunch of pictures in it, all different colors. And it's just so distracting. It's like going to New York City and trying to see a tree. It's complicated. So try to keep it clean, simple, modern, and to the point. And don't forget to give a call to action. So call to actions are everywhere. They should be everywhere. All right, visual design, like we were talking about. Um, don't be afraid to use stock image. I mean, it's just easy. And I believe Constant Contact has some in there. You can find a bunch of free stuff online if you don't already have like a photo stock place where you grab things from. Um, this is pretty much everything I already said. Single column is preferred, but I mean, don't be afraid to use a couple columns in there. You definitely want to take a look at it on uh on the preview, which we'll get to that screen, how it looks on the mobile device as well as on the desktop. Also, I don't want to mess up my presentation, but I want to point this out. This view as a web page is very helpful. I recommend doing that. So when you're in a text block, there's a button up at the top that says insert, and it could be a greeting, like a name or so on and so forth, and then view as a website. I put that in all of my emails, even the emails that we're doing for clients. And one of the biggest things I like using that for is proofing. So with our clients, we put that at the top, but we use that as a proofing link. So anytime you're updating your email and you have a boss or you have somebody else that you need to proof it, then you send them the proofing link instead of the actual the test email, because that way if you email it to the proofing link to them, they can reply directly to you. They can't reply to the test email. um, and then the link will keep updating until you publish the site. So I think that's valuable for proofing. I also think, well, one thing is that when you send this link for proofing, you also still need to send the subject and the pre-header because they won't see that within this link. But I just think that's more valuable and it keeps it email a little bit cleaner, like your inboxes, because that gets outrageous sometimes too, as everybody knows. I think that's it on that. And then a little bit about subject lines and pre-headers. So I went against the rules on this. Like, for instance, the pre-header says like it has a bunch of commas in it, and you shouldn't do that, but I did it anyways. So basically they get really strict on like subject lines and pre-headers where you shouldn't have a lot of characters, and I get it and I understand why. Like Constant Contact, MailChimp, all of those software programs, they are looking for deliverability rates. So they have like a whole compliance team. I don't know how many people they have in there, but they're working with like like Google and Outlook and so on and so forth to make sure that their emails are getting to where they need to go to our customers, basically, right? So when you have all that like firewall, I don't know what they're called, but like basically firewalls and spam detectors coming in, they look for certain things. So if it says free, 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 exclamation point, then it's going to hit a flag somewhere. So primarily you just don't want to hit a flag anywhere. So you want to try to use less punctuation, which is difficult when you're trying to write, right? Like because I want to write my subject lines as a headline, like, hey, what are you doing today? But one thing about subject lines also is that people will read their, so when they receive your email, they're either going to read it right now, they're going to read it later, or they're never going to read it. And so usually the later turns into never. I don't know if you've all experienced that, but I definitely have. So we want to speak directly to the client, but we also don't want to have any bait and switch either. So which email platform is right for your business? The people that are going to open that are probably only people that are interested in e-commerce, right? Well, that's good because I'm only talking to them, right? Um, or maybe people are just all interested in e-commerce, or it's marketers. I have a lot of marketers on my list. And then the pre-header is just like giving them a little bit more information, but you can switch them around. I would say that your subject line should be the primary thing in your newsletter that you're trying to tell people. So if you have a bunch of different things, pick one and make a subject line. So anybody on the call that is doing, this is our April newsletter, this is our uh, July newsletter, so on and so forth, don't do that. You want to make sure that it actually gives you some content because people want to look at it and see what's going on. From their preview on their email. Um, the from name, you that should always be the same and it should be the full name of your business. Even though like it's coming from my address, tracy.oclair at toc-media.com, it's coming from the business. And if you have an LLC, you don't necessarily have to use LLC for marketing, just FYI, because I find a lot of people do that too. But make sure your full name's there. Make sure it doesn't get messed up sometimes. You're in there and you play around with buttons and settings. So you just always want to look at this and make sure that it's exactly what you want because obviously you don't want to typo within your subject line. You can also add people's first names. I don't typically do that. I don't know if it's just because I feel like it's kind of hokey. But a lot of marketers do, and that's okay. I think that's again good for customization and just personalization to the people that you know. My thing would be make sure you have your first names in there so it doesn't like act weird because there's been times where I've used the first name like within the email. Um, but then the first name wasn't there and then there was a double comma. So just be careful when you're doing that is what I would have to say. Yeah, definitely avoid all caps. Please, everybody, avoid all caps. I think everybody knows that if they're on social media, that when you use all caps or in a text message, it's basically yelling at people. That's old school advertising, what people used to do, like in newspaper advertising, not so much nowadays. Um, and then you can test, which you should test. If you have a large audience, I would try testing the same email on different times or a different day at the same time. We've done that with a lot of clients, and it works well. So, and typically you're only testing like maybe once a year or something of when the best day and time is. But you should only do like an A/B test. So you're testing the time or you're testing the day, and then use the same email. And then Constant Contact allows you to test your subject line as well. So you can play around, however you want, but I think the time and the day of the week is most important. Um, for instance, we were working with at one time Coldwell Banker in Waterville, because I'm from Winslow, and Coldwell Banker in Augusta. And it was interesting to us. So we tested each audience, and each audience was a little bit different. It was like some people were on later at night because they were traveling from Augusta, you know what I'm saying? Whereas Waterville was like a couple of hours before or whatnot. So just test your audience, find out what the sweet spot is. And you should know that, like, what am I selling? You know, if this is a late night crew, then maybe they are going to open things later in the evening, or they're working 9 to 5, they don't have time, or they're in an office job, you know, versus the trades. Then a lot of times it's Monday morning. They're like, okay, I didn't check my email all week, but I'm going to check it now. Um, but at the end of the day, sometimes Sunday nights are better. Um, what another piece of data that you can look at for times when people are online is your Facebook account. So you can see on Facebook, like, basically what's the best time to send, so on and so forth. Um, all right. So preview and testing. I do recommend that somebody else looks at this email before you send it out. I think that's good for everything before you publish, because they may catch it, they may not, but there could be a typo. Um, One thing is, if you do make a mistake, it is best to send a correction email. And when I do that, I say in the subject line, correction. And then with the same subject line, I just basically fix the correction, put correction in the subject line, and then send it out. Um, so that's the little FYI. But there's multiple different options. So you can click up at the top, and I don't show it here, but basically within the email editor, there's a button that says, like, I think it says preview, but it also says like check errors or something like that. So it will check, it will analyze your subject line, your pre-header, and then if there's any broken links in there, as well as, I believe, spelling. And that's nice because it gives you little tidbits on the subject lines, like this should be shorter, should only be 5 to 8 words, or this has too many or whatever in it, like characters. Sometimes I ignore it a little bit, but that's me. Um, uh, and then but check it all the links, like, so when I send anything to clients or my project manager, I'm like, they know that, okay, read everything word for word. That's what proofing means, and making sure there's no typos. And then click on all of the, or grammar issues. And then click on all the links. Like, definitely click on all the links, because sometimes you get in there and you move things around so much that you're just forgot something. Or the link is the wrong link because you're copy and pasting so much. Um, and then, of course, make sure the branding looks good, make sure the images are good. Look at it on mobile, look at it on within your email. Um, no weird spacing issues. Make sure the bottom of the email has everything that it should have on it. Like, I like to put all the social media links at the bottom, kind of like in the footer of the email, and then just keep that there on a consistent basis. But anyways, when you click on the preview, you can look at it on mobile, and that's what the view that you're seeing right now. Then you look at it on desktop. And then you can look at it on the inbox as well. But I think that's an upsell on some of the constant contact accounts. And then you can send yourself a test email. So I usually only send myself a test email when it's a new brand that I'm doing, because I'm like, okay, I'm playing around with the template. I want to see how this looks when it comes in. Is that so? For me, one of the things I'm looking at is the header too big? And it takes up my whole entire screen. I don't like that. Um, but anyhow, point being, always make sure somebody's looking at your email before you send it out, and all of your published material before you send it out. And it doesn't have to be a work person if you're on your own. Like, sometimes I send things to my daughter. I did just the other day. I was like, how's this website look? And she's like, it looks good, mom. And my friend's sitting right next to me, and she said it looks modern as well. So there's that. Um, so publishing, since they updated, has changed a little bit. In the Before you schedule something out, they used to have like all the data in one place. But now they have drop down menus, and I just screenshotted two of them, because these are the ones that are important. So the sender details. Let me just see. subject line. Hold on a minute. So if we go back, oh, that's not the same. Email settings. Okay, so when you're in your email editor, there is a button that's called email settings right up at the top right. And that's where you're going to put your subject line and your pre-header in before you get to the end page. But when you get to the end page where you're fixing to publish, then you're going to see these drop downs over here, like I was talking about. So that just reconfirms that, like, okay, sender details, subject line, pre-header, those are like your big things, right? Your from name, your email, your reply email. You're not supposed to have virtual offices, so I broke the rules there, but whatever. So let's talk a little bit about the reply email address. So when you send the reply email, when you set that reply email address, all the bouncers are going to come back to you, but they're all auto generated bouncers for the most part, like people that are out of the office. It's um uh what I'm saying. Oh, people that no longer work there. Whoever had like an auto reply email on there is going to come back to you, which honestly sucks. When when you're like, oh my god, I just got spammed because my marketing person sent out an email, and now there's so many bounced emails. So you can have that reply go to somebody else, but just also know when they those are automatically going to come back to your email anyway. But when you have the reply email, so the from let me think about how I want to say this. So the bounce emails are automatically going to come to your from email. The reply emails are people that physically click on reply and send. So basically, if you have some so it gets wonky in there. Let's just put it that way. But ideally, you could have a reply email go into your info or your sales at email, so on and so forth for people that want to reply to it. Tests. So over here on the time and the audience, this has changed a little bit too. But if you don't have multiple things that you're segmenting out, you would have one general list. Then you can start segmenting out, for instance, say you have a sporting company and you sell baseball and golf supplies. And so in an email, I'm going to put baseball promotion or content and then golf promotion content with a link that goes to those pages on my website. If somebody clicks on those links, you could edit those links. So if somebody clicks on those links, they go into a separate list, which would be golf or baseball. And that's good to do, but depending on where you are in your email journey, because I know for me, I over organize, I over segment, and then I realize I don't really need to do that. It's one audience. The only thing that I would segment my audience out to are marketers versus business owners, because business owners would be like retainer clients, whereas marketers will be more on the training side of things. So just think about your audience, and you should have a clear picture of who your audience is in regards to demographics, you know, everything, their behavior, so on and so forth. And that's another thing that Chat GPT I find does a really good job at. As long as you give it enough information, this is who we think we are. This is who our audience is. Here's some data. What do you think? Or define my audience. And sometimes it gives you a lot of good ideas that you wouldn't think about out of the box. Point being, create a list, email to that list, do it at least monthly. I would schedule once you find out your best day and time, and then make sure all of your sender details are correct. And then this is technically my last slide, but I got two other slides that are kind of like pro tips and presentation summary. Um, but a little bit about email performance and reporting. So you do want to look at this. One of the things that I find is okay, so say you created your email and then you hit publish, um, or whatever, you send it, you publish it. And then the next time you go in, so you're doing a monthly email, you should go into your, I'm gonna try to slide without messing it up. So this is this is for one email here versus that's for like just general reporting on all your emails, so on and so forth. And this is my real live data. So like I was saying, oh, it is 39. So down here, this shows me like um the unique clicks onto each link that I had in there. If I didn't have any links in there, I wouldn't have that data, right? So you want to make sure you have links in here. And it can go to other sites, but ideally it should be going to, you know, something of content. Like for instance, these do go to other sites, but it gives me an idea who's interested in what. And across the board, they're just interested because they want to figure out what they like too, right? So all I did was curate a list because these are the most common ones. These are the ones that I've seen that work the best that I'm exploring, and I want to see what everybody else is exploring. Um, so within this email, this is how many were sent. This is my open rate. They do have open rate per industry. Back in the day, it used to be like 24% across the board, but now it's I believe it's higher. All my accounts are higher just because of COVID and everybody being online, so on and so forth. So but I would say like anything under 24, it might be an industry thing, or just a crappy email list. Um, or it could be your subject line as well. But if I was to click in here, I could actually see names. And I didn't obviously do screenshots of that. I was going to, but I was just for show, but it didn't make any sense to disclose that information. One of the things, so like right here, the bouncers. So this is what I was saying. So when you go back into the email, you want to look at the bounces for the last email that you sent. And then when you go in there, it will show you which ones are recommended for removal. And those are the ones that the maybe UMO has suspended all emails or whatever, or the email no longer exists. And then remove those because ideally you don't want to have a lot of bounces. The rest of it is like auto generated. And 46 isn't bad, but I'm assuming some people go into their email performance data and find like a large number there. So you want to clean that out because it also takes away from your subscriber list, which you are paying in constant contact. So you can just delete them, unsubscribe. And then the reporting over here, and I'm going to be done real quick so that we can do any Q&A. But this is really just go through here, see what's working, see what's not, figure out, and this data just got updated. So overall, what's your open rate, your click-through rate, then it says clicks by device, opens by device, how many were delivered, how often you're sending. And then you can click over to the contacts tab there and it'll tell you like all about your contacts growth and so on and so forth. Um, I'm going to stop there for Q&A and just kind of let you guys. So anyways, does anybody got a question?
We did have a few from Sam
Perfect.
in the chat. How much does an account with constant contact cost usually?
So I can send that up in the follow-up. Sorry, I'm trying to find hold on. But I think the lowest one is, so it goes by how many subscribers you have. And I think the lowest tier is, oops, I am stuck. Okay, there, yeah. So it goes by like under 500. And I think the first tier is right around $17. But I could be lying. I should know that. Well, I'm not lying, but I mean, it's between 17 and 20.
Great. Um,
Yeah.
how easy is it to add bulk emails like in Excel format or Notepad with specific syntax, or can you only use the editor?
So the easiest way to add bulk emails is using a CSV file, and then I would just do first name, last name, email address. But you can also add addresses and birth dates and so on and so forth there.
Gotcha. I think they may have been referring to the messages themselves rather than contacts, but um,
What do
I'm
you
not
mean?
totally sure. I think by reference, Sam makes reference to actual syntax, so I think they wonder about more about like bulk creating messages to send out rather than contacts. But Sam, if you're still in the chat, you can feel free to sound off or clarify.
Yeah, and you guys are welcome to
Oh, sounds like
just go ahead and
Sam
go ahead.
got
It's like I'm out of here.
got it with that. All right. And then Sam also wonders, can I bring my Illustrator or Adobe Design files or to be using in customizing my layouts?
I believe that you can do a CSS code in there, but I'm not sure if there's an integration that can go directly from Illustrator to Constant Contact. That's something that I would have to look
Yeah,
up.
I've only ever, when I've formatted emails for us, I've only ever exported it as a PNG or at most an SVG file. I think that you, from what I understand, I don't believe you can use Illustrator or Photoshop files directly, but as long as you export it, you should be good.
Well, well, yeah, but you should not export. Like I said before, you don't want to just have a photo in there. You need to get the
True.
CSS, the code, because you want the links and you want, you know what I'm saying. You need people
Oh,
to be able to
yes.
find out where they're going. And another data point that they have is a heat map, like where people are clicking and whatnot. So nobody's gonna be able to click on a link from that. But I'm pretty positive. I mean, Sam said he's good, but or her uh said that I think you can get CSS file out of the Illustrator,
Nice. I
maybe.
believe so,
I don't
yeah.
know.
So that could be a
Yeah.
fun way to customize, make a custom template there.
Hmm.
We did have a few comments on using AI. Linda with a good one. I like to write it myself and run it through Chat GPT.
That's a great
It's a good
idea.
proofreader, but I like my own voice. So yeah, I do. I feel like I do that sometimes as well. I don't know about you, Tracy.
I feel like it's the easiest thing to do if you primarily write something yourself and then just, throw it through there. And it's going to want to change some things, just like Grammarly is going to want to change some things. But a lot of times I'm like, no, that actually is put that way because that's my voice. So that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I run
Hmm.
into that a lot myself as well.
Hmm.
And Lisa has added the constant contact pricing tiers
Oh,
as
yay.
$12 for light, $35
Oh,
for standard, and 80 for premium.
yeah. So I would definitely go on the $35 for standard. It's just, I, but I did get confused because I know that MailChimp's a little bit less expensive on the light, but you can't schedule posts from there or not post, but
Mm,
yeah,
yeah,
emails.
and I don't know
So
about like integrations too. I was running into being able to use Constant Contact integrate with social media. I don't know about other groups, social media integrations.
yeah, is anybody using the social media integration or the SMS in Constant Contact? That's a good question.
I'm not sure. No one sounding off in
Yeah,
chat, but
no,
if anyone
no,
is,
nobody's
feel
sounding off.
free.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I typically like currently I use Sprout Social for social media posting and publishing and analytics and so on and so forth, which is a great program, but it's a hefty fee. However, right now I'm playing around directly in the systems because each social media, TikTok and obviously Meta, they have such an immense content marketing structure in there that I think that's a really good place to be exploring these days.
Great. Do we have any other
Awesome.
questions? In the meantime, if anyone's writing them right now, I'll start, kind of sending us off here. I do want to thank Tracy for another great presentation, really dense and, broad topic here, but I think everyone gleans, especially me, jumping feet first into constant contact. I'll be definitely using some of the advice in today's presentation. I also want to thank everyone for attending today. As mentioned earlier, we will be sending out a copy of the slides as well as a link to today's recording once it's available on our YouTube channel. Should receive this within a few business days. On our YouTube channel as well is a library of a wide variety of workshop topics from cash flow to further marketing topics or business planning and more. In this message from me, Jasper from Score Main, you'll receive a link to a survey that we ask that you fill out. We take your feedback seriously. And as a quick reminder, Score Main offers free, confidential one-on-one mentoring, whether you're starting or growing your business. It's easy to request a meeting with a mentor by heading to score.org and filling out a brief online form. Again, SCORE is a nonprofit partner of the SBA with chapters all around the country, including right here in Maine. And since 1964, we've helped over 11 million entrepreneurs. And last year in Maine, we helped start over 560 new businesses. And a lot of thank
That's
yous in
great.
the
Thank
chat.
you so
And
much.
Yeah,
Thank you so
anything else
much,
you'd like to add?
Score, Jasper, and Dan, and everybody for attending. I appreciate it. And obviously, my contact information is there if you need to reach out.
Yeah, thank you again for a great presentation, and thanks everyone for coming. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Adios, everyone.